Hello, everyone, and welcome to part two in our Boost Your Business series. Today, we're going to be looking at a spotlight on planning for your business. My name is Drew. I'm a product specialist here, and I'm here with Holly.
Hi, everyone.
So, for anyone new to Construction Online or UDA Technologies, just to give you a little bit of background, we have been rated number one for multiple years in a row for ease of use, customer support, and return on investment for construction management software. So, we are industry leading for construction management software. We have over 950,000 users in over 75 countries. So, today we're going to look at using Construction Online's tools to plan successful projects with our advanced and easy to use tools. And so, actually, our on plan scheduling is rated the highest in the industry. So, if you have any questions as we go on today, feel free to submit them. We will try to maybe answer a couple at the end if we have time. If not, we will make sure that you're followed up with after the webinar.
Absolutely. Now, today we want to talk about a few things related to planning your projects, just starting with the importance of doing so, why detailed planning is so important. And then, of course, we'll take a look at how to do things like create and manage schedules, track resource workloads, spot conflicts, and some of the tools that Construction Online offers there. But let's start at the beginning. So, why is project planning so important, and why is it important to be detailed when we're looking at creating those project plans? And for me, so I've been a part of the team here at UDA for about 14 years. I've had a chance to work with lots of different clients, and scheduling is something that is probably one of the most used features in Construction Online. So I feel like I've heard from a lot of you on this, people who are doing a great job with schedules, people who are maybe not doing such a great job with schedules just yet. But there are a few things that always come up. The first one is when we think about planning successful projects, it sounds obvious, but part of it is just keeping the job running on time. Everyone wants to bring their projects in on time, on budget. And there's no way you can really bring a project in on time if you don't have a plan to begin with about what that timeline should look like. Now, sometimes that's going to be, very detailed down to, every individual task that each person needs to complete. Sometimes it's just knowing a general timeline on the project, but you have to start somewhere. So if we want to bring those jobs in on time, starting with a plan is going to be, it's going to be the first step. Now, a few other benefits that you're going to see from improving your project planning. One is client satisfaction. So, a common thing that I'll hear sometimes is, okay, Holly, I'm not sure I want to share anything about the timeline with my clients because they don't understand how construction works. And that is probably true in most cases. However, having a schedule that you can show them, even if it's a rough outline, or maybe you're just sharing those milestones with them, makes you and your business look more professional, more put together from the very beginning. So we're going to increase client confidence right from the beginning there. And it helps ensure that you can deliver the project to their expectations. So boosting that client satisfaction really just by being able to make those commitments, make those timelines, and that again is just going to increase the client's confidence in you. Um, Doing the planning also benefits you internally as well. So when you are sitting down to put together that project schedule, it really gives you a chance to spot things that might cause trouble down the road that you might not ordinarily see. So things like conflicts with different resources, or even areas where maybe not enough time has been allocated for labor, or not enough money in the budget has been allocated for certain things based on how long it's going to take to complete. So this is where there can start to be that collaboration between different areas of a project, between a project manager, say, putting together a schedule versus the estimator who might have created the budget. This is a place where a lot of that can get smoothed out and prevent problems down the road. And then lastly, one thing I want to point out as well is that when we think about project planning, That is really one of the cornerstones of great project communication. Like team communication begins with making a plan. So when we look at putting together a schedule for a project, a list of tasks or to do items, making sure that your team is starting on the same page is really the first step to improving that team communication. So many benefits from doing a good job with your project planning and from taking advantage of some of the tools that we have to offer. So we want to start by jumping in and looking at kind of the basics of a construction schedule in Construction Online.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we are looking at the scheduling module within a specific project in Construction Online. You'll notice there's just a couple things off the bat. There's a couple of different, at the top you see a schedule progress view, and there's also a baselines view that you can take a look at. And down towards the bottom, you'll see the schedule Gantt progress. And so here there are two main views. There's going to be the list view, which we were just looking at, and then there's also the Gantt view. And so the list view is you'll be found to the left-hand side on the Gantt view as well. But this is where you're going to enter in your information about the schedule and specific schedule tasks, and it's going to update that information on the right-hand side on the Gantt view. If you move something on the right-hand side, it updates on the left-hand side. It really works together in that way as well. So every schedule is going to have a task with dates. That's what the basics of a schedule. You have a specific task that needs to be done on a certain day, different start dates, different end dates. So a couple things that'll be what every schedule has, but a couple of things that we can take a look at here with our schedules in trying to handle every project phase is that we can group schedule tasks together, and we can also have different colors with these groups. So with the groups, you could use that for a project phase is what most people would use that for. And then you can also identify that by a specific color. And this color will show throughout the project as well. And so it'll even update and pull that same color onto the project calendar as well. So you can pull, or the whole schedule automatically integrates with other places in Construction Online as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And with those groups, in this particular schedule that we're looking at, I've got this schedule grouped by project phase. Sometimes I will see people create groupings for like pre-construction, especially design build teams might create a grouping for the design phase and then another grouping for like a build or production phase. When I'm working with multifamily builders, it's not uncommon for some of the groupings to represent things like um, common areas versus building one, building two, building three, etc. So there's all sorts of ways that you can take advantage of the groups. I've chosen here to go with a single group structure. So I've just got groups and tasks, but you can create subgroups and nesting. So depending on the complexity of your project or job, there's definitely a ton of flexibility here in how you could set that up. Now, a couple of things that I want to dive in on when we look at these scheduled tasks. So like Drew mentioned, that's really the cornerstone of your schedule is having your task with their dates listed, but there are other things that we can do here on each task just to add a bit more detail to your project planning. So one thing I'll point out is that you'll notice here on my schedule that there are certain tasks that are represented by this little diamond here. And in this particular schedule, all of these or almost all of these are marked as an inspection. So what this represents is a milestone. A milestone is always going to be just one workday, and it's just going to represent a key date on the schedule. So very commonly, those milestones will be used for inspection points. So I have one for my framing inspection. I have one for my plumbing rough inspection, my electrical rough in inspection. So those are all marked as milestones. You can also, on these tasks, take advantage of additional information. All the way to the left on mine, one of my favorites and one that I see people use all the time is the stoplight. So that's just a simple red, yellow, green. It's a great way, again, going back to that communication, just to facilitate kind of a quick reference, especially between team members. Maybe everybody knows that yellow is something that maybe we think is in danger of going behind schedule, or red might be something that you need someone else to take a look at for you, or all sorts of different ways to use it. But just being able to provide those visual flags on the schedule as to where those milestones are happening, um, and other information can be just a way to make the planning process run more smoothly. Now, when we look at the structure of a schedule, one question that I get asked pretty frequently is, okay, so what should go in the task list? Should this be every single thing that has to get done? Should this be, all of the planning that goes ahead of time? Like, how much detail do we want to put here versus what maybe goes everywhere else? And that's one reason why over the last couple of years, we've developed some tools that allow you in your schedules in Construction Online to also link into your to-do list or task list on the project. So you'll notice there is another column on your schedule, this little column with the to-do symbol there. And that just means that when you click into that, it's going to open my Smart Link panel on the right, and I can create to-dos in my to-do list that are associated with this task on the schedule. And what that allows you is a little more flexibility in what goes in this schedule versus what might go on a to-do list. So again, common things that I might see, let's just say, for example, that we want to create a to-do for this footer's material. What my to-do item might look like is, call vendor and confirm delivery date for materials. That's probably not something that I would put on the construction schedule here. You don't necessarily want your schedule, if it doesn't need to end up, being thousands of lines long, but there are probably lots of moving parts, things that you're going to need to make sure get done. So using the to-dos and the Smart Link is a great way to do that.
So let's talk about some predecessors here. So what predecessors are is basically what they do is connect one task to another within the schedule. So we've talked about some of the tasks that we have in the schedule, and how every schedule will have that in different groups, but predecessors are going to connect one to another. And I believe we just are trying to work. I believe we got the share ready now, so apologize for that. We can go back and show a couple things if we need to. Appreciate y'all letting us know that. But for example, like with footers materials, we can set a predecessor relationship to where that cannot start until the site work is completed. And so this works in a couple of different ways. This will automatically move a task back if there is a delay in the project, which we know that that can happen from time to time in construction business, and it'll move the whole project back with the predecessors. So when you have it set up that way, it can save yourself time, and it'll also automatically send out updates to your team with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we are looking at those predecessors, I will say that it is such a powerful tool. So, when we're kind of getting started with scheduling, the idea of not having to make so many manual adjustments is very appealing. So the predecessors can help you keep the project on track as it's going. I do want to step back and say one of the most common mistakes that I see people use, or not use, but make rather, with predecessors is to um, is to just chain one task to the other, kind of going straight down, or maybe to think that every task necessarily has to have a predecessor. So one thing when we think about using the predecessors is remember that they're meant to help you manage the schedule, but they're not meant to necessarily force more time into the schedule than is needed. So we know that sometimes when we're looking at things, one thing has to happen in order for the other thing to begin. And so that's really a great use of predecessors, because we know if our footer's materials aren't delivered, for example, then none of the work that comes after it or depends on them would be able to proceed. Whereas as we get a little bit further down the schedule, you'll notice that not all of my tasks have predecessors. In fact, some of them do not. We have some that have the same predecessor. There may be a lot of tasks, all dependent on some of the earlier tasks happening or being completed. So just remember that when we're thinking about predecessors, it can be tempting to go through and just make each task, kind of related to the task above it. But depending on how you have your schedule structured, that may or may not be the best approach. So remember, there's flexibility that you need to have when setting up those predecessors, and that can really help you build the most efficient schedule. So we don't want to build too much time in. We just need to use those so that it really helps us keep that schedule, moving.
So let's talk about alongside predecessors. One of our newer features and most popular features in scheduling is called ASAP or ASAP. It's going to be defined by this lightning bolt that you see on the left-hand side here that Holly is highlighting for us. And so what this does, this will make that task start at the soonest possible date. So if something finishes early, it will automatically pull that task up to start at the soonest possible date. And that's going to be based off of the predecessor relationships. Um, but it'll automatically pull it forward in the schedule before the original start date. Even if you're going through updating it now, you'll see that it's automatically almost compressing the schedule, at least for that part, and taking that space in between out and making that task. So let's see, for framing labor here, I was going to press the ASAP. It's going to automatically pull it forward and everything behind it forward as well.
Now, you do have some additional options in your toolbar. So if you don't want to have the ASAP turned on for your task, there is an option to simply do a compressed schedule, which essentially is going to do the same thing for all of your tasks, but it will just do it one time as opposed to kind of always having it behave that way. Again, this is an area where you'll want to use judgment on your schedules and your tasks. Sometimes when things get pushed out, we can make some adjustments and corrections, really tighten that schedule back up. Sometimes, if something maybe finishes early, the thing that's following it may not be able to start a week early. It might still have to stay where it is. So that's where, again, as you're building it out, using that ASAP and compress can be great during the planning phase, especially for getting the most efficient schedule. And then as things are being managed, you may want to come back and selectively turn that on or off for different tasks, depending on the setup of your schedule. Now, when we think about schedule setup, there are some additional things that you can add into your schedule that help it set it up a little bit better for some of that communication that we talked about. So we know that having a schedule available for team members to look at is definitely a great first step as far as facilitating communication goes, especially for team members who have access to the schedule, who you want to be able to jump in here and look at it. However, there are some things that we can do when we think about the details on these tasks that will set you up for better communication. So if we just open up one of these tasks, you'll notice that there are some additional tabs here at the top for things like your resources and reminders, which can be a great way to get that communication started, Drew.
Yeah, so when you add resources to it, you can also, like Holly said, mention add reminders to the schedule and schedule tasks. And what this will do is just help keep everybody on the same page. So another good place to keep everyone on the same page, and even with reminders, you'll see that there's different types of reminders you can do for the task. You can send an option to change how many calendar days prior to the start of the schedule that you can do, or the scheduled task, what time you want it to be sent out. You can send it for planning, starting, even custom. So you can also send a copy to yourself so you can see what is being sent to your team. Another way that this can be sent out is on the game plan feature, and we'll look at that in just a sec. But game plan is going to send out however often you want it to. Some people send it daily or weekly. You can send it monthly if you'd like. And it will send a task or send a reminder to the people the resources that are assigned to the task. It'll send them all the tasks that they're assigned to, and that'll be even across multiple projects. So someone can get, you can send a game plan out to maybe one of your subcontractors or trades, saying what tasks you have for them to do that week on however many projects it's on. And so a lot of people really love this feature. It's a way to keep everyone on the same page, even people, like I said, even your subs and trades, if they don't want to log in to the uh, full on construction online application and they just want to get a quick email to their phone to know what needs to be done that week.
And as you'll notice, see, I'm typing and talking at the same time. As you'll notice, both the reminders and the game plan do have a place for you to put your own message in. So you don't necessarily have to do that, but if you did want to just kind of have a certain message from you that was more personalized, or perhaps a number for them to call if they had a conflict or something like that, you can customize that. Now, one other thing that in terms of communication that Construction Online can do for you in a more automated way when it comes to your schedules is, the game plans will let people know, as well as the reminders, hey, when something is coming up. So it's really based on that start date, and is going to send a reminder to the resource assigned, letting them know, maybe it's 5 days ahead of the start date. One thing that we did this year as well for scheduling is enhance that to add an additional reminder type. You'll find it under your schedule options. And it's just called ready to start email notifications. So if we turn those on, what that's going to do is send an email notification to the task when all of its related predecessors have been completed already. So one thing that this does is, depending on how you, of course, have those predecessors set up, because you would want to have those in place, the ready to start notifications are something that you can just turn on for the entire schedule. So with the reminders, you will need to go into each task and set the reminders up. And you can definitely do that on a template basis as well. So you don't have to do it manually every single time. But one thing that's great about the ready to start is, as long as you are, one, assigning resources and using those predecessors, and then two, keeping up with the schedule and marking task off as complete, those will just automatically send those reminders. You won't have to set it up for each individual task. So it's just a great way, again, to allow this schedule in Construction Online to handle some of that communication, make sure that people are getting the information that they need. Now, as we have, what we've been looking at here, of course, is a schedule for an individual project. So there's a lot that you can do here. And of course, typically when you're planning for a project, you are planning for that project. But we know that sometimes the schedule for this project might be impacted by other schedules that your company is working on. Or there may be times where you need to do planning, like let's just say we're looking at Q1 planning or first half of 2025, and we really need to pull back from one project and be able to look at the company as a whole. So that is where the multi-project scheduling in Construction Online will come in. And really allow you to see a view of not just an individual schedule, but what this does is it creates a Gantt chart showing you the start date and end date of all of the projects or all of the schedules that you have in the Construction Online platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is a great dashboard for people, especially we hear people who are doing more than 10 projects at the same time. This is where they find some of the most value in construction online. So you'll see from here that's showing the schedule with the milestones even on there. And so from here, you're able to move the schedule. Say you have a different start date, or maybe you have a project in the future that you have a lot going on, maybe you need to move it back a certain date or a certain amount of days, you can move that forward from here, and that'll move the entire schedule along with that. And alongside the milestones, we do have a milestone view that you can take a look at here. And it's just going to pull up a blade on the side, and you can see all the milestones details within a specific project. And so whatever you're using those milestones for, you can see a quick picture view and even check them, mark them off um, from here and from the multi-project scheduling.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll notice on the milestone blade here, as well as on the multi-project schedule view, that today's date is denoted with this red line. So you can always kind of see what's just passed and then what's coming up in relation to today's date. Also on this view, you can zoom in or out. So I'm zoomed in a fair amount here, but not like all the way into this week. I'm looking at a time period of what, about 5 months or so. If we wanted to zoom in a little further, maybe I just want to see, kind of closer to like what's going on this week, perhaps, or just this month. There's some great view options. So, really, no matter how you need to see this information, there's some great options on here for you to do that. Now, one of the things that you will have available, so everyone does have the ability to see this multi-project scheduling. Our business level and above users are going to have some additional tools here to really make managing and balancing those resources a bit easier and just give you more insight into things like your conflicts. So as we're looking at our multi-project scheduling, down at the bottom, you'll notice there's a little like a little arrow here. If I click on that, what that's going to do is open up my resource track blade. So on top of the schedules that I'm seeing here, I can pull up this view that's showing me all of my resources or subcontractors that I have assigned on the different schedules that I have in the system. And I have different ways of being able to view this information. So the default view, or kind of the first view that we see, is going to be the workload view. And that's, I think of that like a heat map. So that's just really allowing me to see kind of how generally I have my work distributed. So it goes from red to green, or green to red rather. So you can see on some days where a resource may only have one or two tasks, it's green. It will start to turn yellow and then red as their workload increases, which we're measuring here based on number of tasks. There's also a great task completion view. And what this does is it lets me know if we have things that are in red. What that's telling me is there are items on this resources schedule that they're assigned to. The end date has passed, but this task has not been marked as complete. So it just is one more way for me to be able to spot when things might be going behind. So if I'm planning for a schedule today and I look and see that there's a lot of incomplete stuff still out there, that's letting me know, even if that schedule hasn't been changed yet, it probably needs to be. So great planning tool there. And then of course there is the conflict view, which I know, Drew, we've gotten some great feedback on. I think that's really the hot button thing for everyone managing multiple schedules for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, honestly, a great way to look at the conflict view. This is an easy way to view it quickly, but if you want to manage it, a good way to do that is in the main True Vision Resource Track tab. And so we can go there to show you. Right now, we're technically in the multi-project scheduling tab, but we also Resource Track has a dedicated tab in Construction Online. And so from here, you can see all these views that Holly was just talking about, and even we can go back to that conflict view potentially, and uh, see at a higher level view of everything that's going on here, where the conflicts are. And from here, you can click on a single person and see the project that they have the conflicts with. And then you can also change the schedule from here as well. So you can assign maybe we see that Ted has, or Corey has, Ted has multiple conflicts on this day. And so we see that we can go and view the task, assign the task, and we can even assign this to someone else. So if we see that Ted has too much going on this day, maybe we know that we need to schedule that to someone else. We can do that from here.
Yeah, and one thing you'll notice here, so I wanted to kind of show you like how some of these tools interact together. On my schedules, I made sure for my tasks to denote what trade each task is related to. And what that allows is when I'm going in to do task reassignment, notice it's showing me, hey, there are no available resources, which isn't a great thing. I definitely want to be able to find someone to cover this task. But what it's doing is picking up on the fact that, okay, Ted Bishop here is one of my framers. Um, these tasks are related to framing, of course. And so it's looking in Construction Online to see who else I have that is marked as a framer who is available during this time frame. So it's really pulling data from my contacts, it's pulling data from my other schedules and other things that I have people assigned to show me who is available to take on this task. Now, it might be if I get rid of this framing filter here, we'll just go ahead and pull in the full list of, all of my resources. So that I can go ahead and reassign that out. Of course, if I really, did not have a framer available, let's say I have everything set up, then that might be a signal to me that I need to make some adjustments timeline wise on the schedule. So it makes it super easy for you to reassign. So let's just say I want to reassign this to Alan Brown here. We'll check them off as a resource, uncheck Ted. You can even expand out and see any of these resources calendars. So you can see, okay, maybe they're free today, but perhaps next week we have them starting something. So it just allows you to see a lot of information in one screen. This is especially great for anyone that is needing to do some of that load balancing without going to each individual schedule. So that's kind of the advantage of the resource track view. This dedicated resource page is going to be, you'll notice on the left-hand side, rather than projects listed, that's going to be your actual resources listed. And then you're able to do a lot of that balancing just from one place. Now, I know one common question that I get asked is like, okay, but how does Construction Online really know if there's a conflict? Like, I have some subs that might have 4 crews. They can take on more than one task at a time.
Yeah, so that'd be a great way to use this tool here for the load management. Another thing we can do here is, or I guess one thing that a lot of people like about this is you can change the conflict thresholds here. And so you can say that a, so right now we have it at, you can assign, one resource can have 3 scheduled tasks to display, and before that will be a conflict. And so before that marks red on there, they can have up to 3 tasks. So you can change this and it's customizable for you as well. So if you have, like Holly said, maybe they have 4 different crews. You could have them up to 4 different tasks for that single day. And that way there would be no conflict there, and you would know that everything is taken care of on your end of the resource track schedule.
So we are a few minutes over time. So we've kind of reached the end of the time for our webinar today. We have seen some additional questions come in, and a couple of people have asked as well if we'll be sending out a recording. So we will definitely send that out to you guys. As soon as that's available, we'll make sure that everyone who signed up for the webinar does have access to the recording. As always, I do want to point out that those recordings will be available on our webinars page here. So that's just constructiononline.com/webinars. That's where you can view the schedule for upcoming webinars, including the next 2 sessions in the Boost Your Business series, Spotlight on Progress, as well as Spotlight on Profits. And then last week we did a webinar, Spotlight on Protection, looking at using Construction Online's permit and insurance tracking tools, as well as daily logs to reduce your company's liability. If you missed that one and would like to go back and watch it, that's on the webinars page as well. So we'll definitely be sending that out. If, as we've gone through today, you've gotten some ideas about how to use Construction Online scheduling in your business and want to dive into that with us a little bit deeper, please feel free to be in touch. We're always happy to meet with you one-on-one, help you get started with Construction Online scheduling. But until next time, that wraps us up for today. Thank you again for joining us, and we will see you on Wednesday for the Spotlight on Progress.